Hello, everyone, and welcome to Friday, August 6th edition of the GMAT Club, where I am going to talk to you about how to prepare your TUC application. My name is Dr. Christie St-John, and I'm currently a consultant with Accepted.com, and I was formerly the Senior Associate Director of Admissions at the TUC School of Business. Some of you watched the presentation last week where I talked to you about TUC culture and a lot of inside information about the school. If you have not seen that, I would invite you to go back and look at it. But today we're going to be focusing on the application itself. TUC, as I mentioned last time, is a very special place. And the one common denominator of all the students there is that they are very nice, competitive in a good way, very smart and driven, but also compassionate. I'll talk with you more about that, but let's have a quick look at the profile of this year's class. So students 289, which is very small compared to the other M7 schools. 49% women, which is fabulous. They're almost at parity. U.S. minorities, 32%. International, 37%. And those represent so many different countries from all over the world. Average GPA, and this is based on the US 4-point scale, is 348, and the average GMAT last year was 720. Now, if you are within that range, you're a good candidate for this. If your GMAT score is way lower than that, you might want to retake it. If your GPA is lower, there's not much you can do about that, but try to get a good score on your GMAT. Now, let's go into the different parts of the application. The next thing is, what is TUC looking for? They're very, very specific all over their website. So the first thing is they are looking for students who are smart, curious, and engaged. Now, they understand that they're gonna look at your grades from undergrad. They're not just looking at what your GPA is, but they're looking at what sort of courses did you take? Did you challenge yourself? Did you take really difficult subjects? Even if you got bad grades in them, if you challenged yourself, they'll like that. It doesn't matter what school you went to. They do not judge state schools any differently than Ivy League schools and international schools. What they're looking at is, what did you study? How did you do? And again, your grades are what they are. There's not much you can do about them. If you're one of these people who have not had any quantitative work in your undergrad, this is the time when you want to go sign up at your local community college or in an online class or MBA math or the HBX classes and get at least statistics and an algebra 2 class under your belt. It will help you when you get there and make life a lot easier. That's my recommendation. TUC does not require you to do that, but I would strongly suggest you need to do that because the first quarter is pretty difficult quantitatively. Next thing, they are looking for accomplished students, impactful and principled. And what that means is they are not looking for your job title necessarily, but they're looking at what have you done that has added value either to your company or to your organization, or to your community. Now, a lot of you may not have time to do a lot of extracurricular activities now. You're at the early stages of your career. You're probably working very long hours. So in that case, they will look back to what you did in college. Were you involved then? And the reason they care about this is because, A, they want well-rounded people. And number two, they want to know that you will be engaged with the TUC community. This is really, really important. Principled ethics are the core of everything at TUC. The honor code rules and ethics, solving problems ethically, is one of the ways that they keep the spirit of honor and principles in the school. The third thing, TUCs, they're aware, they're ambitious, they're purposeful. They don't do things just to have a list of extracurricular activities on their resume. What they're involved with because they care about it, because they're passionate about it, because they want to have other people join them in it. They're self-aware about what experiences have shaped them and who they are and why they react the way they do in some instances. They are they have a good vision for their future, and it's based in part on what they've done in the past and what their vision is of their career goals and their future in general. And lastly, you're going to see this again in one of the essays. Students are encouraging, collaborative, and empathetic. Tuck, as I mentioned last time, it's a very inclusive and diverse community. If you have not had experience dealing with people who are not like you may find this a challenge at first. But everyone there is very welcoming and open. Everyone is respectful of everyone else. Nobody looks at someone and says, "Why are you doing that? That's really stupid." They might say, "Oh, why are you doing it that way? I never thought of that. Explain to me how this works." They are inclusive and they are also very collaborative. When I tell everybody, or I used to tell everybody, that Tuck students are very nice, they would say, "Yeah, well, it's a competitive world out there. Does that mean they're just sort of namby-pambies and they're too nice to compete?" Absolutely not. But as one of the alums told me, we're very competitive, but you don't compete with your family. And at Tuck, we're all family. We help and support each other, do the best that we can do, because we know that by being collaborative and supporting each other, we build each other up. That's the whole purpose. But competitive? Oh, yes. If you get them in a case competition against other schools, they're going to give it all they've got. But they'll do it in a nice, principled way. They're not going to make fun of anybody. They're not going to make snarky remarks. So that is one of the things. If you are a diva and you think you're always right and you want to do everything by yourself, Tuck is really not the place for you because it's very collaborative. Everything is based on teams, regardless of what you do. All right. And the next, excuse me, next topic that comes up are letters of reference. And I'm going to talk about this because there are so many misconceptions about letters of reference. Should I get it from the CEO of the company? Does it have to be from an alum? No, it does not. Your letters of reference, and Tuck requires two, should be from someone who has worked with you, who knows you well, who knows how you react in a team-based environment, who knows what your leadership style is, who knows what your communication style is, either written or verbally, and they know what accomplishments and value you've added to the organization. They would prefer that you give them a letter from your direct supervisor. This can be someone just above you. It does not have to be the CEO. The CEO may or may not know what you do at all. And if you're not giving a strong letter, then you're just wasting paper. Most schools don't particularly want letters from your professors because unless they work with you on a project for several months at least at a time, all they're going to be able to say is that you completed the coursework and got an A in their class. And we can tell that from your transcript. So please don't use professors unless you really have to, unless it's a special project that you worked on. Obviously, you're not going to use family or friends of the family, people who've known you for a long time and can tell them about what a cute little kid you were and what an honest young person you are now. That has nothing to do with your work personality. And that's what we're interested in getting at. Your referee must write the letter himself or herself. If your referee asks you to write the letter for them, find someone else. I'm going to tell you this right now, not just for Tuck, but for most schools now, they have software that can tell whether you wrote the letter or not. They can tell what computer it comes from. They do an analysis of metadata. In other words, if the phrasing in your letter of reference is the same as in your essays, they'll note that. It brings up a flag. They will occasionally call your recommender and say, "Now, tell me about this thing that you wrote in the letter." If your recommender can't talk about it, that's a big red flag, and you'll probably be denied right there for cheating. So you need to find a recommender who knows you, and who can talk to us about what you have done and also what you need to improve on. You're not perfect yet. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be getting an MBA. So, what do you need to improve on, or what have they given you to improve on, and what have you done about it? Second question, a lot of people say, I don't want my direct supervisor to know that I'm thinking about going to MBA school. What do I do? Very simple. You can use your former supervisor at another job, or you can use someone at one of your extracurricular activities that you've been involved with for a long time. Again, a person who knows you. Or you can ask a colleague, as long as that colleague is not someone who reports to you. Can't be your direct report. So if you've only been working at a company for a short time and you think, my supervisor doesn't really know what I can do yet, I've only been there, then get someone else to write it. Get your former supervisor to write them. And it's a good idea to keep in touch with your supervisors from past jobs, because you never know when you might be applying there again and you might need their help. The last thing is, if your referee does not speak English or write English well, then it needs to be, they can write it in their own language, and you need to get it translated by a certified translator. You are not to translate it yourself. You'd be surprised at how many admissions officers do speak a second language. And if you start writing a bunch of stuff in there that they can actually read, you're going to find out. You'll get a red flag on that. So don't translate it yourself. That is not official. There are lots of official translation services out there. If you are in an area where they have an Education USA office, you can go there and they will translate for you. Lastly, notify your references in plenty of time, because if they don't submit their letter by the official deadline, your file is incomplete. It will not be read. And if they don't get it in times, then you're going to be pushed to the next round probably. Somebody's just saying, how many words should the letter be? Probably, maybe. There's really not a limit on it. Most of the forms, TUC uses the GMAT Common Letter of Recommendation as well as their own form. And it's mostly they're checking boxes comparing you to your peers. And then there are 3 or 4 little boxes where they can add information about, tell us a time when the candidate went above and beyond. Tell us a time when you've given the candidate feedback. How did they receive it? So there's really not a word limit on the letters of recommendation. I would say probably 200 or 300 words is fine. If it goes over that, that's fine too. The more that your recommender can talk about you, the better it is. Now, a lot of recommenders get really carried away and talk about themselves a lot. That's fine, but it's not very helpful. So again, that's a very good question. Thank you. All right. Now, next item in the application process will be your transcripts. TUC and most other schools require you to upload a copy of your transcript. Before you're accepted, we know that there are some schools that will only give you one official transcript. So you don't need to send that, but you need to send a certified copy or an online copy from your university and upload that. Then, once you're accepted, they will require the original transcript. And they do check those line by line. So if something's funny, or if you've tried to be clever and change a grade in a class on the online transcript and they see that on your original transcript, that's not the same grade, a red flag, okay? Again, if the transcript is not in English, it needs to be translated by an official translation service and upload that. They generally want to have a copy of a transcript from every school you've attended. However, that does not include study abroad programs. Those grades will probably be on your regular transcript from your school. If you've got certificate programs, things like that, you don't need to send them that transcript, but they will want to know more about it. Okay? Now, any questions on the transcripts? Let's see. Here's another. Okay, I will get to your question, Chuduan, in just a second when we get through with the application process. Okay, let's see. Now you've got Vio Sung Lee recommended English proficiency about medium fluency. Do you prefer the LOR written in native language and transferred? Whichever your recommender feels more comfortable with. If they have a reasonable, comprehensive written style, that's fine. You are not going to be graded on your recommender's fluency in English. You're only graded, if you will, by what they say about you. And if it's simple, that's fine. If they make mistakes in their English, that's fine. It's not going to count against you. Okay? Does that help? All right, is there a specified format for a letter of recommendation? For the GMAT Common Letter of Recommendation, yes, there is. You can get that online if you look up GMAT Common Letter of Recommendation. You can download the form. You can see that. Let's see. Do you need transcripts from a school you've transferred out of? Yes, you do. If you transfer from one school to the other, because a lot of times on your final transcript, they will only show the courses and not the grades. So they want to see the grades you made in all those schools. So yes, Liam. Architecture for a year would change. Yes, you do need to provide a transcript for your year of architecture. It was a different school. Doesn't matter that you're not studying that anymore. You got grades in it. And there may be actually some, with architecture, you may have some quantitative courses that would be good to transfer. Okay. Is it mandatory for GMAT scores? Well, we haven't gotten to that, but we're about to. So do they have to be sent directly from GMAT? They do have to be sent directly from GMAT. Now, you can upload a copy of your score with your original application, but you must have GMAT send the official score to the school. They will not consider your application complete until they get that official score. Again, that's because there have been some instances in the past, and this again is not just for TUC, this is for all schools, where people have doctored their GMAT test results. Nobody likes that. So they do require that it comes from GMAT, okay? You can send, as I said, though, I used to get, when students were retaking a test and it was right up against a deadline, or when the decisions were about to go out, and the student said, I've just taken it, this is my new score, can you look at this? We would take that, and we might give you a conditional admission until we got the original score, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Now, back to the test scores, which is the next slide. TUC will accept the GRE or the GMAT. There's absolutely no preference. They do not take the EA yet. Some schools do, but TUC has not taken that yet. There is no cutoff score, but, use your own judgment. Well, we had a student once when I was there, a candidate once. Very sweet young lady, basically didn't have much experience and had a 460, I believe, on the GMAT. We denied her and gave her feedback afterwards saying, the test score, you would not survive in the class here. We want you to be successful. You need to go take some classes. She reapplied 4 years in a row with the exact same application and the exact same test scores, with the exact same result of being denied every year. One of the things that I used to, it's like fingernails grating on the blackboard to me with the sentence, my GMAT score does not adequately reflect my ability in quantitative methods. Everybody, 99% of the applicants say that, okay? If you don't think your GMAT score reflects your ability, then go take the test again, because it does. I'm sorry. If you're a bad test taker, everybody says that. You should have been used to taking these online tests now. They've been around for years and years and years. If you have test anxiety, there's a company out there that actually helps you with that. Take a deep breath. If you take a deep breath, do some meditation. This is not the end of the world if you don't score well on your first time out. It's not a sin to go and take the test again. In fact, if you retake the test when you've gotten a bad score, it shows the admissions committee that you're self-aware. You know that this is not your best effort, that you want to improve because you want to be admitted. You're not just saying to them, hey, I don't do well on tests, so this is my score. Take me anyway because I'm wonderful. That doesn't happen like that. The top schools have the ability to choose from among the top candidates. And if you want to be one of those, you need to get your score in line with that. Doesn't mean you have to have a 720. It doesn't mean you even have to have a 620, but there's got to be something that shows them you can do the work. Okay. Um, Tuck does not offer test waivers. Some schools did last year, but Tuck is not going to offer test waivers for the GMAT or GRE because the test provides them with information about how well you will do in the first year of the program. Okay. If you are an international student, you will be required to take the TOEFL, IELTS, or the Pearson test of English, unless you went to university where English was the main language, or unless you have lived or worked in an English-speaking country or company for at least 3 years. In that case, you automatically get a waiver. Okay? Any questions about those? Oh, and there was a question over there from Nikhil about, should I mention full-time non-degree programs? You can put it under certifications. You don't need a transcript for those, from Nikhil. Okay. All right. That's all. Do you need to upload the transcript? Yes, you do have to upload the transcript. You upload your official transcript if you have it, but upload a certified transcript if you just have that. You will upload your official, well, you won't upload it. Your university has to send your official transcript directly to the school. That can't come from you. Okay. All right. The deadlines for the Tuck application. Round 1, September 27th. Round 2, January 3rd, which is generally the biggest round. And the last round, March 28th. For international students, we definitely recommend that you apply in the January round just because no one knows what the visa situation is going to be like. No one knew last year when COVID struck that all the consulate would close and you wouldn't be able to get the U.S. consulate to even interview for your visa. Just, make it easier. Get the things that you control, and one of those is apply early if you're ready. Doesn't mean you have to apply in round 1. That's for people who really know that this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be. And Tuck is offering an incentive deadline. They will guarantee you an interview if you apply by September 1st in round 1, or by, did I say September 1st, or by December 1st in the January round. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the interview process, but that is something that is really good. If you think that there's something a little bit weak in your application, you want to be able to interview to say, look, I know you're probably wondering about why I've had 5 jobs in 4 years, and I wanted to let you know because it was, COVID, layoffs, whatever it might be. So you want to be able to explain yourself to them in the interview so that that is duly noted in case there's no place else in the essays that you can note that. Okay. Let's see, Waleed, if you have a low GPA, can you make up for it with a great GMAT? Yes. Would you need to talk about your low GPA? It's always good to mention that in the optional essay, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But it's going to be obvious, and if you don't say anything about it, then it's like the elephant in the room. Why aren't you telling us what happened? Because it could be a very, very simple explanation for why you didn't do well your first year in college, family illness or emergency, or you were ill. So there are lots of reasons. So you do want to do that. Okay. All right. Now, let's get to the essays. Tuck's essays are pretty straightforward. The main thing that I've seen in the past that candidates do is not to answer the question or think that they can get away with copying and pasting the answer to another school's question and popping it in there. Tuck is very specific about what they want to know about you. As I said, it's a small place. Everyone's personality matters. If you get one bad apple in the group, it can spoil the whole experience for everyone. That's why they are very, very careful about who they admit to the program. They want to make sure, A, that you can successfully complete the program, and number two, that your personality fits the school's personality, and number three, that you are going to be happy there and engaged in the community. And this is really important. In a school with 1,000 or 800 or 500, it may not be that important, but at a smaller school, it really is. So the first essay says Tuck students can articulate how the distinctive Tuck MBA will advance their aspirations. Why are you pursuing an MBA and why Tuck? Understand what Tuck is all about. Go back and watch the video from last week about the culture. Go and reach out to Tuck ambassadors to find out their experiences there. Reach out to the club leaders to find out what they're involved in and how their experience is. Look at the research centers they have. There's so many resources, and you need to know what those are. One of the worst answers is, I want to get a good, solid business education. You're going to get a good, solid business education from any MBA program you go to, as long as you apply yourself. What they want to know is, why are you looking at Tuck? What has Tuck got that you want? Okay? Know what you need to learn. Okay. Any questions on that? Let's see. Short-term and long-term goals. Yes, we're going to be getting that in the next essay, in fact. And we will go to your 1-year tenure at a company considered bad. No, that's not bad. Okay, essay 2. Tuck students recognize how their individuality adds to the fabric of Tuck. Tell us who you are. Word of warning, you are not your job. Who are you outside of work? If you need to talk about your work and why that is important to you, why you got into that, that's fine. Talk about what led you to this company, what you love about your job, and why you think you're making an impact on it. But that is not the only thing you are. I know I get a lot of questions from consultants saying, how am I supposed to differentiate myself from other consultants? We all work on different projects and we all have similar backgrounds. No, you don't. You have very different backgrounds. You have very different personalities. Think about what you do outside of work. Think about projects you've worked on that have inspired you, that where you have decided, by working on this project, this has made my direction for my future goals very clear to me, and this is what I'm going to do. That's a really good way to translate into your goals. But think about the clubs that they have there. What are you going to bring to the Tuck community? What do you know that maybe nobody else does? What have you done that nobody else has done? Or what have you done that's, really kind of special? It doesn't have to be you found a cure for cancer or you've gone to the moon. Nothing like that. But think about things that are unique to you. It could be something really small, but something that's really very cool about you. You'll look at the club list, you'll see what things there are, and you might say, hey, I noticed there are a lot of clubs for getting prepared for running 4Ks and cycling, but I don't see any clubs for cross fitness. I think I'll start one of those. And that's fine. I don't see a club that volunteers to work with children's agencies. I want to start one of those. I don't see a club that works with animal rehabilitation. I want to start one of those, or I want to, join one of those. So think about what you are passionate about and talk to them about it there. Okay? Any questions on that? Let's see. Is it better that our essays highlight different aspects of ourselves? Work, community service, education goals. Yes. And some of those should overlap. What you're interested in school should probably carry over to why you got your first job. It may or may not, though. You may have decided, maybe your parents pushed you to become an engineer and you really hate engineering. And you wanted to go into something totally different. And that's fine. Explain that. Explain what pushed you to go the path you've taken so far, and what has inspired you to go in a different direction or continue in the same direction, but with perhaps a different profile or different function. Okay. What's your take on admissions counseling agents editing your essay? Would that make your essay parrot other applicants, and would that be disadvantageous? That is an excellent question. Generally, now I'm not sure, I can't vouch for what other agencies do, but I know at Accepted, we do not write your essays. What we will do is give you a guide to say, this is how you need to get started based on the stories you've told me, because we do get a lot of background on our candidates to find out what stories they've had, what struggles they've had, what challenges they've had. From that, you write the essay. We will say, this is vague. Explain what you mean here. Give me a better example here. This is really unnecessary, this paragraph, that you're going into too much detail and it's not necessary. Or you're not answering the question here. That's the kind of advice that we give, and I believe that most reputable counselors will do the same thing. If somebody's writing your essay, number one, it will be discovered. Not most schools, as I said before, have software that will recognize what does not come from your computer and from your style of writing. They can match the style of writing. So you don't want somebody else writing your essay. It's supposed to be about you. You're not going to be judged if your grammar is not perfect. You might be judged for spelling errors because you've got spelling software to check that. But, if your ideas flow logically and are clear, it doesn't matter if you use big words. It doesn't matter if you write like Ernest Hemingway or William Faulkner or, God forbid, something like James Joyce. That's really hard to read. So admissions consultants can actually help you refine your essay so that it's answering the question and getting to what you want. Okay. Essay 3. I'm checking the time. Okay, good. Tuck students are encouraging, collaborative, and empathetic, even when it is not convenient or easy. Describe a meaningful experience in which you exemplified one or more of these attributes. Now, again, one of the first slides that I talked about, what is Tuck looking for? They're looking for smart students, they're looking for accomplished students, and they're looking for students who are collaborative. This is your chance to show how you fit that mold. Tell me about a time when you helped someone else. Tell me about a time you mentored someone else. It may be hard to get all 3 of those in there, but not impossible. I'm working with a candidate right now who does have all 3 of those in one really good example. Think about what you've done. And if you can't think of anything, ask your friends, have I ever done anything to help anybody? Or ask your boss. When I mentored somebody, those new hires we had last year, was that good? Did they learn from me? So you know what you've done. And if you don't have any examples for that, maybe Tuck's not the right place for you. Okay? Again, if you're a diva looking out for yourself as number 1, Tuck is not the right place for you. Okay? Next question. Let's see. The next slide is about the optional essay. And the optional essay is really and truly optional. You do not have to fill it out. What this is for is if you cannot ask your supervisor for a letter of reference because you don't want them to know you're leaving because it might jeopardize your bonus or your promotion, or you haven't worked there long enough. So you're explaining why your supervisor is not writing a letter. If you've got really bad grades in college and you've got a really, a good reason for why, and you can show that you have changed and you've acquired skills, that's a place for that. If you did really badly on the GMAT and you've taken it 4 or 5 times, and you're not just saying, okay, I'm a bad test taker. No, don't say that. Talk to them about it. That's another thing. If you have been diagnosed with ADHD or anything like that, or learning disability, and it has to be with a doctor's notice on this. GMAT and GRE will both give you extra time on the test if you need it. Ask for it. Don't let your ego get in the way. Ask for the extra time if you need it, and they generally will grant it. But again, you have to have a doctor's certification that you do have that. Okay. What the optional essay is not is a place for you to say, I really, really, really love Tuck and I want to be there so much because of all these wonderful things that you do there. Yeah, you should have made that clear in essay 1 or 2. It is not a place to reiterate what your resume shows them. It is not a place to whine and moan about how a teacher was mad at you or something like that. You need to be accountable for what happened. Now, if you did have a really bad professor, I mean, I've had one of those in my life too, and you just could not you just could not understand what was going on. Talk about what you did and how you tried to work with the professor and it didn't work. And you had to learn the material on your own and it just wasn't enough. You've got a bad grade, but you can show that you have improved, that you are using quantitative methods for your current work, and make sure your recommender talks about that too. All right. Any questions on that? Let's see. Can we explain a situation where we help someone in athletic training and also took part with him and won together? Sure. That's good. That's really good. It could be, maybe you're coaching a little league team and teaching them not only the skills of baseball or soccer or whatever sport it might be, you're also teaching them strategies to accept when they lose, strategies for maybe keeping these kids off the street, getting them involved in something else that shows them that they have capacities that they didn't even know they had. You're going to be, I think sports is a really good example, as well as mentoring people at work or being involved in extracurricular activities. Yes, great question. Thank you, Rick. Now to the interview. The interview is by invitation only, unless you apply by September 1 in round 1 or December 1 in round 2, in which case it's automatic. They can't interview everyone. So what happens? Your application is submitted, and then someone on the admissions committee, not one of the students or anything like that, but someone on the admissions committee will scan it over really quickly, look at your GMAT, your GPA, look at your essays briefly, your resume, and say, okay, yeah, this person's got, the outlines of what we want. Invite them to interview. It's up to you whether you do a great job on the interview or not. You need to practice. You need to know your resume backwards and forwards. You need to know why you are doing this MBA. You need to know what you want to do. Generally, the admissions interviews are done by second-year students. The second-year students, I learned when I was there, are very, very good, and they're tough. They'll tell you all about their experiences there, so it's great to have a student interviewer because you really ask questions about their experience, and you'll get more information that way. But if you've got any fluff or you've exaggerated stuff on your resume, they can sniff that out. So make sure that everything on your resume is something that is absolutely true. They will only have your resume. They won't know anything else about you. They don't know your GMAT score, your GPA, what you've said in your essays, what your recommender said about you. They don't care. What they want to know is, can you explain yourself to me as to what you've done, what you know how to do, why Tuck is a good fit for you, how you've met challenges, how you deal with diversity. Those are going to be the main topics of the interview. They're judging for fit. Are you the kind of person they want to be stuck on a desert island with, or in an airport for 5 hours with, or something like that? Okay. So try to be calm, be friendly, keep good eye contact. All the interviews this year, I've been told, will be virtual, either Skype or Zoom, I believe, so that it is equitable for everybody, because not everybody can get to campus. They will start having campus visits in September, but and it's absolutely a good way to go and find out more about the school. But the interviews, they have told me, will be all virtual. And this is good, actually, unless you've got bad transmission, in which case there are technical things that you can fix before you get on the interview, okay? And don't let it fluster you, because the way you handle um, an unexpected person walking in on you while you're interviewing, or your audio or video suddenly going out, the way you handle that says a lot about you too. If you get totally flustered and just can't carry on, that says a lot about you. It says you don't really deal with pressure well. And MBA programs, regardless of what school they are high pressure. Okay. Let's see. We meant that. I think I've gone through everything on that. Any questions on the interview out there? Let's see. Alex, can I use the CPA CFA to prove that I can conquer first year curriculum, even though my GMAT score is not so competitive? It will show that you have managed to do the quantitative skills necessary to pass those. They will take that into consideration. But again, if you've only taken the GMAT once and you're not happy with your score, go take it again, please. Okay. All right. Mr. Pandey, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce. 13 years of work experience in IT, working as an assistant vice president in a bank, and would like to join full-time. Should I apply to full-time 2-year MBA? Yeah, sure. Why not? 13 years is almost enough for a 1-year executive MBA program, but it depends on whether you want to be immersed in it. Now, for those of you who are looking at executive programs, let me just tell you one thing. You can't get a visa to the U.S. for an executive program because it's considered part-time unless you are working in the U.S. So if your company can transfer you over here and you can work full-time, you can do an exec program. If you're coming over here on your own, leaving your job, then you need to look at a full-time program. If you're going to go back in the same, the 1-year versus 2-year program, if you're going to go back in the same industry and you just need to brush up on some skills that you don't know, like maybe you don't know anything about marketing or operations management because you've been working in finance, you could probably get away with a 1-year program. Tuck does not offer a 1-year program, by the way. But if you're going to be changing industries, a 2-year program is really good because you'll have an internship to try out your new skills and your new job focus. I've had students in the past. I remember one student who was one of my favorites. He came from Ghana and was desperate to work for JP Morgan. And he kept going up there and talking with alums, talking with people, went to every single info session they had. And they kept saying, well, you've got commercial experience. You don't have investment experience. And, you just don't fit this category that we're hiring for. He kept going and kept going and kept going. Finally, towards the end of the year, they said, okay, fine. We are really impressed with your persistence. Come on down. We will give you a chance at an investment management position. He did the summer internship and he came back and I asked him, no, what was your experience there? Did you love it? And, did you get a full-time offer? He said, yeah, I got a full-time offer. I said, why are you not excited? Why aren't you jumping up and down for this? He said, I really hated investment banking. That's why. He said, I don't want to do that. I said, well, then that was a good experience. You've learned from that. And now what's your next step? And he said, I'm going to go back into commercial banking. I've decided that's where I can make the most impact. And that's what I enjoy doing. So there you are. It's a safe way to try out something new without messing up your resume and showing that you're skipping around from job to job to job because you can't figure out what you want to do. Anyway, so as for a full-time program, I'm all for them. They're much more immersive than the part-times, but part-time programs, sometimes you may have to do that if you've got to continue working. And the part-time programs are just as good. You got the same degree. You're just not immersed and you miss some of the club activities and things like that. The timeline from your application to your first interview, that depends on the school. Generally, they will invite you sometime in between when you submit the application and up to 2 to 3 weeks before the decision deadline goes out. So that's your job to look and see when is the decision deadline going. If you are not interviewed but you're put on the wait list, They may then in the second round or the next round ask you to interview. You only get generally one chance to interview. If you do poorly on the first one, you can't go back and say, oh, I didn't hit it off with that interviewer. I want another interview. Generally, they're not going to do that. You get one time, okay? Let's see. Can you mention the need for financial aid in the optional essay? Um, yes, you could. You could tell them that, because of they'll know how much money you're earning because you have to fill out your employment history. And in that, you will put your current salary. And if you can tell them that you've got special considerations, let them know. But it doesn't mean that you're going to get a full scholarship. One of the biggest hurdles for a lot of students is you get accepted and then you suddenly realize, I don't have $150,000. So the way to start doing that is look at other financial resources out there. There are lots of companies that provide scholarships. They may only be $2,000 or $3,000, but that can make the difference. You just go out and research scholarships. And I know that Clairol used to have one. Sometimes Google, Microsoft, a lot of the companies like that will have them for specific professions. There are plenty out there for women, so look for those. There are some out there now for first generation. So look for other sources other than the schools. Schools are not banks. Their scholarship amounts are generally donated by alumni or from the university itself. They don't give full scholarships to everybody. I'm sorry about that, but it's just not, that's the way the U.S. education is. State schools are generally less expensive than private schools, but private schools have a lot of resources. So that's a decision you're going to have to make. But there are agencies out there now that will help international students get loans. They sort of disappeared last year during COVID, but I believe they're back, and even a couple more out there now. So do your research first so that you don't have to say, I'm sorry, I can't come to your school because I just don't have the money. That's your job to figure out where you're going to get it. And there are lots of resources. Look on Tuck site, look on other school sites to see where they've got other financial resources you can look into. Okay. Let's see. 3 years full-time work count as work experience. It was mandatory for you. Oh, are you talking about? Let's see. This is Sri Lakshmi. Is you're talking about a co-op program? They will look at that, but generally, Tuck and every other school is looking only at postgraduate professional experience. So if you don't have any postgraduate experience, they will look at those as they do at internships. It's experience, but not necessarily the best. Okay. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Why can't I go up here? Okay. What kinds of questions should and should not be asked to the interviewer at the end? Oh, that's a good question, Rex. What you want to try to get from the interviewer is something that you cannot find on the website. Do not ask them, how did I do? They won't tell you. That's an awkward question to answer. Do not ask them, do you think I can get a scholarship? Do you think I'm going to get admitted? They can't tell you that. They're not on the admissions committee or the financial aid committee. Don't ask them, so what's the GMAT going to be next year? Or are there any new faculty? You can ask them something that is not on the website. You can ask them that. What has the career management done to help you get where you want to go? What is Tuck going to be doing about what is the 5-year strategy? Are there any new plans? Are you going to expand? Any new programs? Any new faculty members? There are lots of things that you should want to know about it. And if you are interested in a particular area, let's say healthcare, you can say, tell me about the Center for Healthcare. What do you all do really? How can I get involved? Is it just research for faculty? Will faculty work with me on special topic classes? Can I do independent studies? Can I get involved in working with the conference? Ask things like that. Does that help? Let me see, did I miss anything? How will an MBA interview differ from a job interview? And how should you prepare for it? The MBA interview is going to be Not so much. A job interview is going to want to know about your skills. So will an MBA interview. They may ask you to do. This used to be one of my favorite questions. Give me your 60-second pitch of why I should hire you for what the job that you've told me you want to do. I want to see if you can talk to me about your skill set. I want to know if you can talk to me about what you know and what you need to know. I want to know if you can tell me what you're going to contribute to my company. So if you can do that, that'll be good. They also want to know, what do you know about Tuck? What is it that attracts you to this school? And Tuckies are very passionate about Tuck. So if you're just giving them off the wall, oh, I want to come there because it's a collaborative, tight knit community, that's on the website. Prove that you know that by saying, oh, I've talked to some students. I reached out to an ambassador. I reached out to somebody in the admissions office, and I met them at an event. I met an alum. Prove yourself. Everything that you say, you need to be able to prove it. And you're going to be talking about your goals. And if you've got some goal that Tuck has no placement in, which is going to be very few because they do everything, but this applies to every school too. If you say, for example, I want to do petroleum engineering, and you're implying to a school, I don't know, I can't think of one now, but just say school X that is more of a general MBA program, and they have no experience in energy at all. That's not the right school for you. Doesn't matter what their ranking is. Figure out, look at the career page, see where the students are going, what sectors they're going in. Don't be misled by the fact that if it says X number of percentage are going into finance, because they may be going into finance, but in different roles in tech companies, in healthcare companies, and things like that. It's just a general functional area. Also, look and see what companies recruit there. Tuck has over 1,000 employer relationships. So with 289 students, if you can't get a job there, there's a problem. Okay. Anything else that I have missed? I think we're almost at end of time. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope that this has been helpful for you and informative. Look me up on accepted.com, and we can certainly talk with you about your Tuck application. Go to the Tuck website, attend online events, talk to students, and be yourself. I wish you all very, very good luck in the whole process. Thank you very much for having me on GMAT Club.